Great. Well, without further ado, my name is Rob McGregor. I am the Senior Director of Philanthropy here at the law school, and I have the great pleasure of introducing Rick Bierschbach, the Dean and John W. Reed Professor of Law at Wayne Law. Rick is in his ninth year, so I think looking at the screens, it looks like most of you have met Rick. So I won't go into too much to bore you with his extensive background as a clerk for Sandra Day O'Connor on the Supreme Court, his work for the Justice Department, or his stints for some of the largest law firms in New York. But what we really are so proud of the work that Rick has done for Wayne Law in the last 9 years. And it kept his focus on the importance of the JD program that we have always been presenting great lawyers to the industry. And Rick has also just helped us to bring a bit more of a national spotlight to that. And with that, Rick has brought us from number 71 from number 100. Our employment for the most recently listed number is 94% of our students from the 2024 class are employed. We've made great strides in bar passage. But equally important is that Rick has made Wayne Law synonymous really with innovation. And he created the
It's good to see. I see a lot of familiar names and even some familiar faces for people who have on their cameras, and it's fine if you don't. It's great. It's great to be here, and I always enjoy this chance to give a little bit of an update on what is going on with the law school, but also just to hear what's on your mind, and that's really how I want to spend most of the time. Especially since Rob, you stole some of my thunder with your update, which is great, which I love. But as Rob said, I'm in my ninth year as dean. I can't believe how quickly it's flown by. Those of you who know anything about law school deanships know that ninth year, it's like fruit fly years as a sort of a law school dean. Each year is like 662 human years or something. So I am one of the more senior deans around the country, and I love it. And the law school, I mean, in short, is doing really well, as you heard from Rob, and we've got a lot of momentum. And I'm glad about that because we turned 100 in a year and a half. And that's going to be a big deal for us, a big, big celebration when you think of all this law school has done and the impact it's had and the transformational effect it's had on so many lives and on the community, both people who went here, but community members, people who've benefited from our clinics, all sorts of things. It's really incredible. So we're going to be excited to celebrate that. And we're already thinking about how to do it. But let me tell you about some of the things that have happened maybe over the last year and where we are on some things. I'll just sort of start with situating a few things that we have going on. Some of you might remember that last year we had our reaccreditation visit from the American Bar Association, which law schools now have to do once every 10 years. Every 10 years, every law school has to do that. We haven't yet received our decision from the ABA's Council on Legal Education, but we expect we'll receive it soon. And by all reports, the visit went really well. There's a very extensive preparation for this kind of thing. We submit hundreds of pages of documents. The evaluators come, they talk to everybody, they interview everybody. They always find some things that they want you to change. So we're expecting that and we're not worried about it. If I had to guess what those things would be, there's some wonkiness in the way that our library interacts with the university, just in terms of sort of control over the collection and things like that. And the American Bar Association has very sort of particular views on that. I bet you that's something they're going to talk about. There may be one or two other things. So, we're going to get that, but we're feeling pretty good about it. We got really good feedback from the site visit committee. So that's going to happen this year. We also, you might have heard some about this last year, but we're looking a little bit more closely about things like how to better integrate online and remote learning into things like our part-time program. We don't know what we're going to do there yet, but we're just seeing more and more of that happening, and we think as we have a long history of serving working professionals, people who went to our part-time program, things like that, they want more flexibility. So we're looking at that. That might be something you hear about in this coming year. What we've been focused on, most recently is we just had our new incoming JD students come in, our new 1L class, and that class has been fantastic. It's the most well-credentialed class in our history. Our median LSAT score now is a 164. And our median entering grade point average is at 3.89, if you can believe that. We had 129 students. We had this is a little bit of a change from, I would say, 3 or 4 years ago, a roughly equal number of male and female students. I think it was 52% female, 48% male. And if you look back about 4 years ago, it was about 60% female, 40% male. And that was happening at law schools around the country. So that's equalized a little bit. Almost 40% of our incoming class self-identifies as non-white. And we always like to have a class, of course, that's representative of everybody who lives in the state, everybody who wants to go to the school. I spent a lot of time talking to the new JD students, and they're awesome. They are they have a really great cohesiveness to them already. So I'm really excited about this year. So they came in. We also have, as Rob said, other programs beyond the JD. In particular, we have an undergraduate BA in law and a minor in law. And there we have, undergrads taking Socratic classes, there's special law classes for undergrads. That program has exploded in popularity. We haven't done the count yet because our census day is in about a month, but we've got roughly 440 undergraduate students between the minor and the BA in law. And I was at the university's fall opening, and I was at this Meet the Deans table, and one after another undergrads were coming up and saying how they were in the BA in law. And oftentimes they came to Wayne State because of the BA in law, turning down schools like Michigan State, even University of Michigan, where they'd been admitted as undergrads, to come to Wayne State because it's the only school in the Midwest and one of only 6 in the country that has that kind of undergrad program. So that's been a huge deal for us. And we're going to continue to grow that program. And we also have a master's for non-lawyers, as Rob said, and that's great. That started out with one concentration in human resources. So for people who, are maybe an HR manager and they want to get more steeped in the law, or someone who wants to move into the field. And now we've got another concentration in health law, another concentration in corporate compliance, and we're going to keep adding concentrations there. And we've got about 110 or 115 students in that program. So the law school is growing. And as it grows, it's been doing quite well. And you heard from Rob already about some of the outcomes for our JD students, but I just want to underscore some of them, because what we've been trying to do, and I think one of the reasons the law school has been so successful, is we've been really trying to make sure that we're just one of the best values in all of legal education anywhere in the country. And we have been ranked the best value law school for, I think, 11 years in a row. But ranking aside, we want to kind of have underlying data and outcomes that reflect that. And so just a couple of points on that. These are the things I'm really most proud of. Our employment ranking at graduation. If you look at full-time, long-term bar pass required or JD Advantage jobs, so the ones you want to get right coming out of law school is 25 in the country out of 200 law schools. And 8 years ago we were 122 in the country. So we are now one of the leading law schools for that, and we hear over and over from students how important that is. Our bar passage rate in the July 2024 exam was about 12 percentage points above the state average. So that's great. And we want to keep that going. We've got a new bar preparation partnership with JD Advising, which is a bar preparation company that works with our students after they graduate, but also all 3 years while they're here. And so that we think that's making a big difference. Our ranking for ratio of debt to salary upon graduation is in the top 15. And depending on sort of what you look at, and there's different places that have measured this, but US News puts us at number 11 in the country for that. And that's a really big measure of value. And number 4 among public law schools. Number 4 out of all the public law schools in the country. So again, we're just super proud of that. And we really are doing everything we can to keep those things going. As we're doing those things, some of you may have heard about some of these programs, but we're trying to innovate in ways that are really central to the law school's mission, even beyond these kind of curricular programs. So we have this joint holistic defense partnership with the School of Social Work, where our students are helping to represent people who are getting sucked into the criminal justice system, working with social work students, working in the field, doing field placements. We have what we call a Warrior Housing Corps, where our students are going down to 36th District Court and helping people who facing housing insecurity or facing eviction, helping Metro Detroiters. We now have, and this is one I'm super excited about, and I'm not aware of any other law school in the country that has this. We now have a legal navigators program, and we're leveraging our new undergraduate students in our undergraduate program as part of that. So the legal navigators are students who are helping people navigate the legal system. They're not practicing law, but they're helping them do things. So to go back to the housing court example, sometimes just figuring out, okay, what forms do you need to bring to housing court? Did you fill them out right? Right? Like, kind of what documents do you need to see? You don't need a lawyer for that, but you need somebody who's going to be kind of precise, who understands what the forms are about. And a lot of the backlog in these courts are from things like that. There's nobody to do that. And lawyers can do that, but you really be better to use lawyers' times for being in court, right? And so we have this Legal Navigators program where we have undergraduates doing that kind of thing. They're having a huge impact on community members, and they're learning about the law and learning about the difference they can make. And where we're really doing it are in things like expungement. So we now have an expungement fair, which I think the most recent one we had, 220 people showed up to it. And to get your criminal record expunged, that can have an enormous effect on your life, right? It can make you eligible for certain things you otherwise weren't eligible for. It can make it easier to get jobs. But you got to fill out paperwork. The paperwork's a little complicated. You got to know where to file it. You got to have everything in order. Again, the kind of thing a legal navigator is perfect for. So we have these undergrad students working with their JD students. So they're sort of learning from the law students. And the law students are also working with people who are lawyers, established lawyers, legal aid organizations, and they have a nice sort of support structure there, so that when 200 people show up, they can help process them through the system, figure out, okay, who's eligible, who's not eligible. If you're not eligible, could you be eligible? And that program has been so successful that we actually now have had requests to take it on the road. And so we just went, not we, but a couple of our faculty members with an undergrad student and a law student went up to Manistee and served about 130 people up in Manistee, and the response was overwhelming, and the gratitude was overwhelming, because the people in Manistee said, we don't have this here. We don't have anybody to help us, and so we're now talking about, okay, we did it there. Can we do we're doing some experiments. Can we do some of the expungement hearings remotely? Could we do this for Marquette? Could we do, so really trying to have an impact around the state, but in a way that also brings undergrad students in and exposes them to new things. And those are great. And like I said, I'm not aware of any other law school that's doing those things. So, those are some of the things we've been doing in terms of, what's coming up this year, things we want to focus on. Really, it's just, keeping our foot on the gas on most of these areas. Like I said, we're gonna grow some concentrations in the master's program. We're gonna look at, the more of an online presence in the part-time program. We're going to expand this Legal Navigators undergraduate program. And the last thing that I haven't mentioned, but that I want to touch on, we're working on a major capital project to support the growth of the law school. So we're working on a transformation of the law building complex. And that's going to happen in two phases. First, a brand new classroom building. We're going to knock down the old one and we're going to put a new one in its place. But we're not just going to put a new standalone building there. We're going to put one in its place that actually connects up to the other two buildings in the complex. So for the first time in 60 years, it's going to feel like one united law school. And you're going to come in and you're going to be able to go, to the right, to the left, to the classroom without going outside or going down little passageways. So that's going to be transformative. That first phase is going to cost about $48 million. And we've got it fully funded already between commitments from the state, commitments from the university, and commitments from people like you all. So that's super exciting. The second phase is going to be to then renovate the remaining two buildings, the library building, and then what you sort of think of as, the quote unquote new building, the building that has the facade with the name, renovate that so that it all seamlessly connects to the new classroom building and so that the space is utilized in a 2025 and going forward way, and not, utilized in the way it was sort of laid out in 1966, especially in the library building when that was built. And that's going to be about another $40 million, and that we need to fundraise for. And so you're going to be hearing from us over the next few years, and especially as we approach the centennial, about opportunities for that and opportunities to contribute. But the idea is to have a physical plant that reflects the sort of the stature and the impact that the law school both has had and is now continuing to have. And there's enormous enthusiasm for that project. So I'm excited to talk to you guys more about that as we get further down the road on that. The final thing I'll say, and then I want to hear questions, is just that, we're always bringing in new talent. That's why we've been so successful. We have a great team. I can't do any of this on my own. And we did hire 3 new faculty members, among others, this year, and they're great. We've got a new director of our law library. She joined us from Harvard Law School. We were really excited to get her. It was a big get for us. She's a native Detroiter. She actually graduated from Wayne Law and from Wayne State, but was in charge of a division at the Harvard Law School library. And so she came back and she's amazing. And she has ideas for how to transform the library as part of this phase 2 renovation. We've got our first ever Director of Pro Bono and Public Interest. That's a new position we created. And we had a faculty member join that who's got a joint appointment with the School of Social Work, which is really going to have her out in the community, which is perfect for that sort of a appointment and title. Her name is J.L. Richardson, and she's got a lot of experience in criminal defense and mental health services and things like that. So she's a perfect Director of Pro Bono and Public Interest. And then we've got a third new faculty member. Her name is Gabby Mickle, and she teaches legal research and writing and environmental law and has, again, like the other two, a lot of props in those areas. She worked at the Yale Center for, I think it was climate policy and some other environmental law organizations. And so she just joined us, and we're really excited about that. We also had a bunch of new staff join. The one person I want to highlight especially is we've got a new marketing and communications director, Sydney Anderson. So I hope many of you get to know her. She's super dynamic, but you may also see maybe more of a social media presence from the law school. I hope you see that. I know that I heard from some students already that, hey, we've seen a lot more activity on social media. We've seen a lot more stuff on Instagram and whatever it might be. And that's because Sydney's here. And that was a position we've been trying to fill for a while. So that's going to be both great for our visibility, but also important as we move forward. into these efforts that I described, particularly with the new building. So I'm a fast talker. It's the sort of ex-New Yorker in me, but I hope I didn't talk too fast. And I will look forward to hearing questions, thoughts from you all about what's going on at your law school. And I'll stop there.
Looks like Angelo's got one.
Yeah, so no surprise there. Questions, comments, observations, but Rick, always good to see you, and so many great things to report on. So delighted to hear that. You touched on these things, and so the question comment won't probably go quite as deep, but all of these wonderful accolades. The hiring of Sydney Anderson is going to make a huge difference. I did want to also mention I'm a dinosaur, right? Graduated in the last century from the law school, but the only social media that I follow is LinkedIn.
Mhm.
And I see that, Lindsay Crum on behalf of the university is very active. I met Lindsay, she's terrific. And I also saw or see Erica Wallace on athletics. And I have noticed that the law school hasn't had that kind of presence. And so many terrific things to report out. And I know we don't want to do, our bragging on ourselves, but some of these things aren't us bragging about us. National recognition and that value, best value law schools, really awesome messages. So I'm delighted to hear that. And glad we're gonna sort of amp that up. Of course, I still don't plan on being on Facebook or X or Instagram or any of that stuff. It's too much for me, but my kids and certainly the current students are all over it. So great hire there. I did have a question.
Mhm.
You touched on the sort of amping up the online presence in the non-legal areas. And so I'm sure you're aware of the UDM announcement
Yes.
about an all online JD program. Full disclosure, I'm a UDM undergrad, former member of the Board of Trustees at UDM, but curious about your thoughts. And I know they differ, and I haven't even had time to really digest it and talk with the president and the dean of the law school at UDM, but curious how you're thinking about a full online JD degree and whether Wayne may or may not be thinking about moving in that direction.
Yeah, great question, Angelo. And thank you for being here. It's great to see you too. So I think that we need to think really seriously about it, and that's what we're doing. In fact, we have a committee charged with, and they started last year, charged with exploring whether we should move our part-time program to some version of an online program. And I can't say where they're going to come down, but I can say that they think some version of an online program is worth looking hard at. There's a lot of debate around these things, and the concern we have, right, is we've built our brand on turning out really high quality lawyers, and we want to continue to do that, right? And so we don't, the way we've kind of approached innovation here, it's a little like we don't necessarily want to be the first mover, but we like to be the second or third mover. We don't want to be the 30th mover. And online, I think, is over a hump where you're going to see more and more movement there. So at some point, it becomes maybe a market imperative to have some presence in that space. But there are different ways to do it. And I see like some comments in the chat, about this. There are pure online programs. And then there are, like, say, for instance, low res programs where, you have some stuff online and then you come to campus for maybe a week or, 4 times a semester or something like that. So that's number one. And that's the kind of stuff we're thinking about. Number two is there are online programs that are meant to be pure revenue generators. And I don't claim to know why UDM did it, but that is why a lot of schools do it. That's not something we're going to do. We could triple our residential class size right now to make money, but we don't do that because we want a really high quality experience for our students. So if we were to do anything in the online space, we would keep it small so that we can keep the experience as rigorous and as sort of similar to the residential experience, even though it won't ever be exactly the same as possible. And then I would say that the last thing I would say about it is there's one of the reasons we're thinking hard about it is I think there is sort of an access imperative that law schools need to take seriously. We have a great education here, and part of why it's great is is the residential sort of experience. But it's a great education that is unavailable to anybody else in the state who can't live in Metro Detroit. And so you could think, you could have maybe 15 or 20, a very small online program where they're going to get really a very rigorous experience and open it up to the fantastic person who, lives on the Army base up wherever, right? Or the fantastic person who's in Marquette, who's got a spouse who can't move, or an ailing parent, or a family, or whatever it is. And I think our law school takes that obligation really, really seriously. So that's how we're thinking about it. We built a studio in one of the rooms in the law school that is like, you go in there and it's like a TV production studio, to sort of give our faculty an experience with how you can do a really top flight synchronous online class. And that's, if we go this route, that's the kind of thing we're thinking of, because there are a lot of these programs that are like somebody on a Zoom screen doing a whatever, and like that's just, I don't think that's on our radar. But some sort of really, really rigorous, highly kind of tightly capped program that's either low res or something like that, that's going to open it up to people who can't be here for whatever reason. That's something our faculty is looking at. What they'll do with it, I don't know. It's the fact, but I think they're right to look at it. Other questions? Rob, you're muted.
Yeah, so Tracy, I think we covered your question. The JD enrollment is, this year at 129 is a few more than usual, but we've been running in the 125 to 130 range each year, dramatically less than when you were here. But as Rick said, because the faculty have really chosen to focus on the students and the ratio, the professor-student ratio. So hopefully that answers your question, Tracy. And it looks like Mike's got a question.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This has been great. It's awesome to hear all the accolades and excellent work everyone's doing at the law school. And sorry for not being on camera earlier. I was eating my lunch, which is, great timing for this type of meeting that I'm able to attend. So I just want to understand just like the curriculum a little bit. Is there any, additions or of classes or, components of the curriculum that are bringing in new areas of the law around AI, liability and contracting, data privacy, cybersecurity? I graduated in 13. There wasn't really much there, but this is what I do, 100% of the time in my day. And just wondering the evolution of the curriculum and how that's going.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I just came from a meeting about that this morning in terms of AI. We have an AI task force that's taking a hard look at, do we need to build in required elements of the curriculum beyond the first year to deal with AI? Already it's being taught to our students in our legal research and writing classes in some ways. I mean, they're being taught how to work with it as another tool. So that's already happening. But there are law schools, that are making it whole classes about AI that are required. And certainly a lot of law schools that have upper level electives that dig pretty deep into AI. And that's something, we're in active, not just exploration mode with our faculty, but also an active discussion with people who practice in the area about being adjuncts and things like that. So I think you're going to see that pretty soon, probably as early as next year, in terms of classes being offered. We're also trying to actively recruit faculty, and there's somebody we're trying to hire away from the University of Denver who's fantastic, who's one of the leading experts in the country in AI. So we're trying to build up sort of faculty/research presence in there as well. after that, or kind of related to that, it's a little bit different, but privacy and cybersecurity is a little different. But you hit the nail right on the head. The way this relates to privacy, liability, et cetera, we're incorporating that too in recruiting people in those areas also. So I would say in terms of curriculum, that's the area where there's the biggest change. It would be the AI area. For us, for the rest of the curriculum, I don't see any major changes. We're always tweaking and adding new things in response to both student demand, but also the way the profession evolves. We might add a course on leadership, and might add a course on law practice management and things like that. I do think that as AI and other technologies become more embedded in law practice, in addition to being taught how to use them, they really are going to sort of shift what the humans do to more kind of relational leadership, team, like that kind of thing, right? And so I think just making sure our students are more and more ready for that is something that's also on our radar screen.
Great. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate, I probably should have noted early on that, the reason that we chose noon was so that it would allow people to join and not disrupt their day too badly. We've done these in the past at 5 o'clock. And while that works for a group, we wanted to sort of change it up a little bit today and see if the noon time works. But pleased that you were able to get your lunch in and still join us. So I hope others were able to do that as well. Other questions or thoughts?
I saw a question from Suzanne in the chat just about whether some of the things we talked about are available in one place to share. And the answer is, I don't think they're available in one place, but we're actually working on doing something like that as part of a marketing thing. So we can, once we get that together, Rob, I think it would go around to all alums, so we can make sure it does.
Exactly. Yes. And thank you. I was just, I'm a slow typist, Suzanne, so I was going to type that in for your response, but I'm glad you addressed it much more quickly than I could have, Rick. Other thoughts and questions? Thank you, Georgia, for your comment. Terrific to have our MSL HR grads in here.
And a legal navigator. Good to see you, Georgia.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, Wendy, if you would remind us of the next time we're going to do another legal briefs with Rick, where he will talk a little bit more in depth about the building. So that is going to be in October, and I couldn't remember the date.
Yeah, no problem. It's Thursday, October 2nd. I'm going to drop in the chat the link for folks to register. They want to learn more about the transformative building renovation that Rick has been talking about a little bit in a little bit more detail. I'll also include other links for other ways that you can search our calendar to sign up for other events, or even explore other just general alumni events that the Office of Alumni Relations hosts. So those will be going in the chat in just a moment.
Terrific. Well, thank you all for joining us today. If there are no other questions, it's not too late. If anybody has a question or a comment, anything else, happy to hear it. Otherwise, we will sign off and let you all get back to your day. So thank you for joining us, and we appreciate the support for Wayne Law. So
good to see you, everybody. Thank you.